Hello everyone, this is Mr. Ahmed Al Qadri, and today we will continue our lesson about compounds and chemical changes. And today we will talk about how can you spot a chemical change. Chemical changes produce a new substance. These substances have different properties than the previous ones. Often you can see, hear, or smell the formation of new substances as a chemical change occurs. A change in color is one sign of a chemical change. When bleach whitens a piece of cloth, as you see in this picture, the first picture, when bleach whitens a piece of cloth, it does so by chemically changing the dyes of on the cloth or the cloth itself. Also, chemical changes form layers on metals and often dull their color. So rust, for example, is reddish, while the iron from which it forms is shiny. So in fact, when metals corrode, it's due to a chemical change. So when corrosion of a metals causes a color change, it's called tarnish. So this is you can see this picture. This is of picture of tarnish, forms tarnish. A tarnish is the black color on the silver. So this is the silver reacts with oxygen to form tarnish. This black color is the color of tarnish. So from tarnish. So another example of sign of chemical changes, when you place an antacid tablet in water, a chemical reaction occurs and bubbles form. So the appearance of bubbles and other sign is another sign that a chemical change has occurred. So you can see this picture when the release of gas, when there is a chemical reaction occurs with two substances. So this is another example of sign of chemical change. So do you recall what happens when baking soda and vinegar are mixed? Also, bubbles of carbon dioxide show that a chemical change takes place there too. So vinegar and baking soda, when we mix them together, it's another example of releasing bubbles of carbon dioxide. Chemical changes can produce more than just gases. A precipitate is a solid formed from the chemical reaction of some solution. So as example, you can see this is a chemical chemical reaction between two liquids. So this is the yellow is example of a precipitate. It's a solid like a powder. Okay, a precipitate is a solid formed from the chemical reaction of some solution. So when a sink isn't cleaned, it may develop a sticky white layer. This soap scum. It's a precipitate formed from solution of soap and water. Okay, guys. Some chemical chains involve the release of light and heat. So a burning candle in this figure right now, a release of energy as light or heat can indicate a chemical change. So this is another example. The releases of light and heat energy is an example of what of sign of chemical change. So a burning heat produces a hot flame. The heat and light come from the combination of atoms in the candle and the wick. with the oxygen from the air. So if a chemical reaction releases energy, then reversing that chemical reaction will absorb energy. Another example of releasing energy releases energy, the fireworks and the fire. So this is our example of releases light energy and the heat energy, thermal energy. Okay, guys. Right now we want to talk about how can you use chemical changes. So chemical reactions are taking place all the time. So they allow living things to carry out their life function. For example, photosynthesis requires the energy of the sun to help create simple sugar in plants. So the energy from the sun is taking place to help create simple sugar in the plants. So plants and animals both use cellular respiration to release energy from food. So they use this energy to fuel their cells. Uh, Also, machines can also use the energy from chemical reactions. So, a space shuttle uses a chemical reaction, hydrogen and oxygen, to launch into space. And its main engine, hydrogen and oxygen molecules chemically react and release hot gases to push the shuttle upward. So the product from this chemical reaction is safe for the environment. It's just water. Also, chemical reactions are the only way to form compounds. So some compounds, such as fossil fuels, are formed in nature. Other are artificial, such as plastic. There is almost an infinite variety of useful compounds that can be made through chemical changes. So all the compounds, or only the only way the compounds form in the chemical reaction, as example, naturally, as the water and the fossil fuels, they are uh, nature formed in nature, and other are uh, not made from formed in nature, as example of plastics and other compounds. So